you pull on that jersey, you represent yourself and your teammates. And a name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back. Get that through your head.
And here we go.
And it is no good. He missed it. Are you kidding me? The season can't end like that.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Some goofball in a hat and a red shirt. Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs to the 50. He runs to the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms. Bare-chested. Somebody stop that man.
Well, good evening, folks. I'm your host of the program, otherwise known as NETMA, Tyler Falk. Glad to have you with us on a Wednesday edition of the program. And just to be sure, no, I'm not ignoring everybody. Just had some personal things come up yesterday, just unable to run the show effectively. So for those of you that have reached out to me, barring my announcement I made after Monday's show in the NETMA server Discord, or the NETMA Discord server, get those words mixed up. Words are hard, people. But for those of you that responded to me in DMs and those that reacted in however you did in the server, don't worry. We're gonna get to you. Just a lot of things came up yesterday. Unable to put together a faithful show, and we'll talk more about that after power rankings. I just want to talk about a couple things, but. No, it's great to be here. It's great to be part of the show. Great to have you guys alongside. And so, because we really haven't discussed power rankings really since the preseason, maybe week one just a little bit, but we really haven't looked at everything as far as a whole. And so instead of just worrying about the top 10, or I'm going to do something just a little bit different. Back when I originally did power rankings, I released maybe 6 to 8 teams at a time. Last season I did, all 10 teams, or top 10 teams and then everybody else. But, today we're going to just do something different. I'm going to release every single ranking right now. And we're going to discuss the power rankings for week 3. So let's talk about this, shall we? Couple of big movers, couple of maybe people that maybe should be moving up or down. But let's take a look at, where some people maybe not would think a few people would think they would be. And let's talk about Portland, right? Portland below Seattle. And here's why. Here is why Portland's below Seattle and why Portland's the number 28 team. Portland is an existent franchise. Seattle, they've only played 3 games in their history. Portland has a, reputation for being toward the bottom. They have not been able to put together, consistent, effective campaigns. And so I thought they were going to have a pretty good start to the season. I kind of figured they'd have a little bit of a rocky start and then maybe pick up wins through the middle part of the season, but it just hasn't worked out. And San Diego, who came away with a win over Jacksonville, I think rightly moves over Jacksonville and above every single other team that doesn't have a win. So that's why you see San Diego at 23 moving up 5 spots and Portland down below Seattle. And no, Seattle has not played particularly well. Seattle, again, I think they're still learning. I think they're still learning that, maybe the SFL are going to work on a few things, and in order to be more competitive, in order to be a better club. But for now, they find themselves 27th, not 28th, for the reason I mentioned earlier. Canton, supposed to be, by and large, supposed to be, maybe where Minnesota is, supposed to be where, maybe around the middle of the table, but they just haven't won. And that huge loss against Canton, or against Indianapolis, Canton losing to Canton, that might be something to take a hold of. But Canton, biggest comeback in league history for Indianapolis, I think, puts Canton down near the bottom. Indianapolis, besides that comeback win, really hasn't done too much. And so you see, Indy at 22. Motor City and Fort Worth, probably the two teams that are going to have the biggest slight. Well, every team that's not number one is going to have a slight, because everyone's going to think they're number one, and you rightfully should. You rightfully should think your team's the best overall because it's your team. Someone has to rank these teams. Anywho, let's move to Motor City and Fort Worth, both at 2-1. I think Motor City's a wild card. I think they've done a really good job game planning. If they can game plan throughout all 14 weeks of the season and come out with a positive record, better than anyone else thought they would, then, they start moving up. I think giving them a +4 is pretty decent. Fort Worth, again, big win over Florida in week 2. Again, what I'm looking for, how I was mentioning with a couple other teams, is consistency. With Portland even. It's consistency. I'm waiting for Fort Worth to show me that it's not a hot start like Queen City from a couple seasons ago, only just to fall off. They have reputation that says they're going to be around below 500. That's what Fort Worth does. Motor City, typically 6-6. Again, previously known as St. Louis, they're typically 6-6. It's rough. LA, few folks there saying, we're snubbing LA just a little bit. Again, 2-1. Consistency is around 500, below 500. Again, more improvement, better work. LA's offense is not statistically good. They rely a tremendous part on their defense. I will give their defense credit. Los Angeles is number 1 in overall yards allowed per game so far, and number 1 in passing yards allowed per game. The defense has really turned things around. I'm waiting for consistency for that offense before I put them any higher. A couple other teams in that middle of the park pack. Charleston moving out of the top 12. Louisiana only moving up 1 after their first win. DC moving up after they take their second win. We'll see. We'll see. There's just some question marks about a lot of these teams. DC, consistent. They're right around the mid-pack where I think they're going to end up. They need a pretty decent win, in my opinion. Same thing with, with Fort Worth, with LA. Fort Worth has the team I think is overlooked the most here is Fort Worth. They have that statement win early in the season. Again, it's way too early, I think, to be making drastic decisions apart from Jacksonville. Way too early to say that Fort Worth is going to be a top 5 team. It might be way too early to have London at top 5 based on how they've performed with a rushing attack rather than the passing attack and completely caught 3 teams off guard, let alone 2 of those teams were expansion, and one of those teams was the worst rated rushing defenses from a season ago. A lot of things can still happen. It's still early. If you don't like where you are, come back at the end of the season when I have those power rankings at week 13, week 14. I think that will be more the case of where folks are. This, again, we still don't know a lot about these clubs. It's only week 3. We're going to learn more. We're going to find out, with some tougher games. London hasn't played. London's opponent combined record is 2-7. They've beat up on some, if you want to take it for what it is, some weak teams at the moment. Still got 9 more games to play. Let's move on to top 10. Atlanta moves up. Are they back? I don't know. I don't know if Atlanta's back. The offense is consistent apart from some turnovers. They're right around 9th, 10th in the league in terms of turning the ball over with 9 total turnovers. But they have taken the ball away on the defensive side of the ball equally the same. Right around league average, of course, 0 turnover differential. The defense has kept them in games. They have kept games relatively in reach. I'm not going to say Atlanta's back, but I think Atlanta's got a good case to say, we're going to rely on the run game this season, which a few teams are doing. London, Atlanta, a little bit of Sioux Falls, a little bit of Minnesota. But I think Atlanta deserves to be back in the top 10. Minnesota, maybe this is a reach for them, but I really like that defense. The definition of Minnesota nice comes into play. Oh, sure, you can get 1 touchdown, don't you know? But that's all you're going to get. Minnesotans are a little pessimistic like that. We're very what does I say? We're very sarcastic in how we treat. We'll be very, very nice to you, but we're going to be blunt when we want to be blunt. And we're gonna go around the bush a little bit before telling you, you're doing something we don't like, kind of thing. But Minnesota, number 9. On to Sioux Falls, slipping down a little bit this week, but I still think the defense is solid. Sioux Falls defense is going to keep them in games. They have one of the best points against on average the first 3 weeks. In fact, the best, averaging 15.7 average points per game against. And so Sioux Falls is number 8. My opinion. The defense kept them in games. The offense, excellent example, week 2 versus Minnesota. Only needed 16 points because they only allowed Minnesota to score 14. So I think Sparrows deserve an 8th spot. Lone Star, they're back down at 7, and here is the biggest thing why a 1-2 team is still in the top 10. Week 7, not week 7, but spot 7, Lone Star. Lone Star are an anomaly. They have one of the fewest turnovers given up through this young season, but they find themselves at 1-2. Lone Star have turned the ball away around 6 times. They have a positive turnover differential with 2, which puts both of those rankings right in the top 10 in terms of turnover diff. They don't turn the ball over. And for some reason, Lone Star, even though they're converting 55% on 3rd down, they find themselves 1-2. It's been a very tough stretch for Lone Star. The Glory have had to play Las Vegas and Louisiana. They've come away, they've fallen into 2 tough teams. They've beaten Fort Worth, which right now is tied at the top of that South Division with Mexico City and Houston at 2-1. Speaking of Houston, besides a loss to Atlanta, which I think is a strong team, Lone Star has moved down because they have lost to 2 teams that are right around 2-1. Houston has impressed me with what they have done so far. The Headhunters' offense is always going to be revolved around the pass, and it shows. But they've been able to get the running game going and be a top 10 rushing attack as well this season. So Houston finding ways to win. On to that top 5. Who saw London with the number 1 rushing offense in the first 3 weeks? Not very many people. It's going to be a very interesting game in week 4 versus Motor City. Team that's leading the league in passing versus the team that's leading the league in rushing. And it's the inverse of who we thought was going to be leading those categories. I think we're in for a fantastic contest Friday night. On to Florida. Florida's gonna be good. The biggest thing that they need to work on is the offensive productivity. They're able to score some points, but they've been able in good field position. But what happens when they can't get those turnovers? They are dead last in the passing game, in the total yards per game, in the passing touchdowns. Only one passing touchdown for Ron Cochran. So they're number 4 because Florida has a pedigree of making the playoffs and being a solid team. So Florida is number 4, in my opinion. Aztecs, Vancouver, Baltimore, I think that should surprise very few people. Just, again, the pedigree. Mexico City, top 10 offense. Vancouver, top 10 offense. Defense gave the ball away to Vancouver one too many times that second half, and that's where Baltimore beats Baltimore as the number 1 team. Again, very early on in this season, very early power rankings. Take it all with a grain of salt. So let's go and do a rundown of all 28 teams from 28 to 1, like we used to do. So Portland, Seattle, Queen City, Canton, Jacksonville, San Diego, Indianapolis, Motor City, Los Angeles, Denver, Tulsa, Fort Worth, Carolina, DC, Louisiana, Charleston, Arizona, Las Vegas, Atlanta, Minnesota, Sioux Falls, Lone Star, Houston, London, Florida, Mexico City, Vancouver, Baltimore. That's your rundown of the Week 3 power rankings. And now, I did promise we'd talk a little bit about just the show in gen. No, I'm not leaving. No, I'm not hanging up my broadcaster mic. Some of you are groaning back at home. I know who you are. But I'm just gonna just be blunt with you guys for a little bit. I love doing the show. I love seeing your reactions in chat. I love seeing the memes you guys post in the server. I love seeing you guys post memes in the SFL Discord server about the show, about me, about everything we do. I'm not going to say that it's always easy to do this show. I try and hold myself to a high standard, and I kick myself when I think, maybe the show could be better. What am I? I'm not improving. I need to improve the show, but I don't know how. I'm just going to say it. I need to improve the show. I feel like I need to improve the show. I feel like I need to be better. I'm doing everything on my lonesome. I do all the broadcasting. I do all the production. I try and get as many stats as I can. I try and use every tool to my ability. And yes, I've messed up on a few occasions. And you guys are very cordial in letting me know when I mess up. And I appreciate that. And so that's where the announcement on Monday comes out from. I want to continue to do this show. I want to continue to be a daily show. I'm going to try and, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, or how all of you are going to play a part, that want to play a part in the show. And I'm not going to expect a whole lot from those that want to be part of the show in a more regular way or semi-regular way. I'm still going to try and, produce the best caliber show with as much or with little help as I possibly can. Now, life might come up, work might come up, and I might not be able to do a show from time to time, but I feel I need to do better. I feel I need to produce a better quality show for you guys because you guys deserve quality content. Now, you can tell me show sucks, show's great, don't change anything. I deserve feedback. I owe you guys feedback. Well, unlike, the few times I sometimes, do these state of the program type of shows, I say, I'm going on a vacation. That's not happening this time. I want to continue to do the show. I want you guys to be part of the show. The show's supposed to be about the SFL and the people about the SFL and everything that makes this SFL great. more cooperation we can have, the more folks that we can have, helping out with little segments, 2 to 3 minute segments that will work in. Just an idea, just worked in at the end of the show, or for a longer show, we have, a little bit bigger panel. Maybe the show goes for an hour. I'd still like maybe a regular show to be 15, 30 minutes, because not everyone can sit through an hour show. Not everyone can sit through me rambling on and on about personal life when I'm supposed to be talking about the SFL. So, with that being said, I appreciate you guys listening, watching. Maybe every other day, maybe every day. You guys are what make this show go. I know you could be doing a lot of other things than watching this show, than supporting me, but I appreciate you stopping by. So we'll be back tomorrow for week 4 preview. Only 10 games to cover tomorrow. We'll just take it one day at a time. Just how life should be taken. Just how this show will be taken. So we'll be reaching out to those of you that want to be part of the show this weekend, later tonight maybe, and we'll get together and we'll talk about what we can do, what kind of bits we want to run, what kind of segments, what kind of, what ideas everybody has. Let's make this show truly about the SFL and its people. So we'll see you tomorrow for another edition of the program right back here on YouTube. Until then, everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
No way you can shake me. I am heavy debt. No way you can pay me. I am the pain, and I know you can't take me.